back to season 3 of Real Estate Renovators. We had 2 successful seasons, so fingers crossed season 3 is just as successful. And why wouldn't it be when we're kicking it off with Tony Morrison, CEO of Harcourts Victoria? Tell us a little bit about Tony, Rex.
Tony is not just CEO of Harcourts Victoria, CEO of Harcourts Tasmania as well, I believe. And we're going to hear how he started his career, how he went into, became a CEO, and his topic of today is how to build a brand. Tony, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Wouldn't be the same without you. Tell us about yourself, Tony. Some of our viewers may not know who you are.
Well, I'm originally born and bred in Tasmania. That's where most of my real estate career has been. I started in real estate a long time ago in 1988. So that's been around for 33 or something years, I suppose.
What made you choose real estate?
Prior to that, I was a musician / music teacher. And I threw all my jobs in 87 and went overseas to London, like many Australians do, and spent a year, I suppose, in London and travelling and working, and came back to Australia, and I had the travel bug, and I thought, well, I'm going to earn more money in real estate than I will in teaching and playing music. So initially I had no idea about real estate. I just thought this could be a ticket to earn lots of money so I can go travelling again. So I rocked up at, I went around a whole range of local real estate offices in Launceston, and eventually one gave me a job, and it all started from there. So
was that a Harcourts office that gave you a job?
No, there was no Harcourts. I started Harcourts in Tasmania. This was, I worked with the professionals, and I worked there for about 10 years, and had a very successful time selling purely as an agent. So
how did you go from, I'm assuming from an agent, you went to setting up your own office?
So after working at professionals for about 10 years, I think I was probably a bit burnt out. It was just the business was so flat out, and I was selling at my peak 280 houses a year.
Wow.
Like that's a truckload of houses.
Yeah.
So I was burnt out. So I got out of real estate for a couple of years and went back to my other passion. Music. I bought a CD store.
Wow.
And there was no money in CDs. This is about the time when we had all those imports. You remember when those imports came in from overseas where you can buy CDs for $9 or $10?
Tell some of our viewers what CDs are, because there's a few people around that era.
That's right. So I did that for a couple of years. Then I was approached by my brother and another lady to set up a real estate company, and I thought, well, I'm not doing any good at selling CDs. So I went back into real estate, and we set up a company called M&M Real Estate, and we traded with them for about 3 years, and then we
Just sales or property management?
Sales and property management, yeah. And
how was the transition from a sales agent, I suppose, to a business owner?
It went pretty good. We started at just the right time. We had a bit of luck. It was the previous boom, prior to this boom we've just been through. It was about 2002, 2003. We had an amazing boom, which seemed amazing but not compared to this boom. But like in a Tasmanian market, it's a very stable market. You don't get huge growth and much change, but we had huge growth. And so we started at the right time. So everything just fell into place. M&M stood for Morrison and Morrison. So it was like two brothers who were local boys, born and bred in Launceston, knew everybody. And so therefore we had an established, I suppose, brand.
Your own brand.
And then we had another lady, Kirsty Dunphy, who was very good with technology. And so she did a lot of the behind the scenes stuff and set up the website, and we just did what we did best, which was go out and sell houses. So we initially probably didn't have to get too much involved in the management of the business because we had someone who oversaw it all for us, but gradually over time we got more and more involved.
And how did that evolve into?
And then we were approached by Harcourts probably about 2003.
Who was the CEO there at the time?
Mike was in charge.
Mike.
Yeah. So we were approached actually by the CEO from Queensland, Aaron Brooks at the time, and he came down. And actually, we went up too. Actually, we met Mike and a whole pile of the corporate team in Brisbane, and they put a proposal to us to set up the brand in Tassie. And initially, we thought this was great because we had no systems, no technology, no training. We were just two young guys who were good at selling, and we thought we'll never be able to grow beyond what we are unless we have some support. So we thought it was a good idea, and so we swapped to this brand called Harcourts, which was only relatively new in Australia at that stage. I think it came to Australia in 1997, so it's only been in Australia for 6 years. and it was a New Zealand brand. So we went from a brand which is based on two local guys in Launceston to this brand from New Zealand which no one had ever heard of. So to be honest, we actually
And
took
the first office in Tassie.
the first office in Tassie. So we probably took a step backwards for a little while because it was like there was a little bit of a reaction of, well, who are these young guys? They've sold out to this multinational company and it's not even Australian.
Yep.
So it took a little while. So we went backwards probably slightly, but within 18 months or so, we were tracking forward again. And then we started to grow the brand. And it was my job as the CEO for the group to go out and find offices. And initially, there was a reluctance, and most of our growth was through agents in our office saying, I like the brand and I like the opportunity, so I'll take on a franchise next door and so on.
Oh, okay.
And then bit by bit, other offices, non-Harcourts offices came to us and started seeing that we were growing, and they started approaching us. So it sort of went from we were chasing people to join us to then they started wanting to come and join us. And
Right.
bit by bit over a number of years, we turned it into the dominant brand. And now in Tasmania, Harcourts sells 1 in 4, sometimes 1 in 3 houses
Wow.
across the state.
How many offices are in Tasmania now?
It's about 25, including our rural and commercial ones. So
Wow.
so it just dominates.
When you sat down, Tony, in that initial meeting with Harcourts, obviously you had this independent office, it was family run, I'm sure you were doing quite well. What was it that really sold you to join the Harcourts network at that time?
Oh, look, there was just so many things which we just didn't have. I mentioned before, we had no idea if we wanted to grow a team, well, we needed good training. And I suppose like most people who are natural at selling, they're probably not great at training. It's like, most good sports people are not good coaches, So we needed some good coaches to help us coach people to become better salespeople. They had systems and technology and, all these things. And plus, they had this vision to grow the brand, and we thought it'd be nice to be part of something bigger, and that they're all really good people, and I mean we wanted to be associated with good people who could help us grow. So,
And how's it, fast forward a bit, how'd you go from CEO of Tasmania to now CEO of Victoria as well?
So I suppose I was CEO of Tassie for, I'm going to say 14 or 15 years, when an
And you took it from a 0 to 30 offices or so.
Yeah, and then the opportunity became available in Victoria. We had a CEO resign, and quite a lot of the brands, real estate brands, have a CEO who oversees Victoria and Tasmania, but they're usually based in Victoria. And so I put my hand up and I thought, well, there's no reason I couldn't do reverse, based in Tassie but oversee Victoria. So I put my hand up for that, and I got the job late 2018. It doesn't feel like I've been here all that time because a lot of it was COVID, so a lot of it I just wasn't here. So I was running Victoria for quite a bit of the time over the last few years, basically from my study at home in Launceston. So I took on that opportunity, and now these days I'm probably 3/4 of my time is in Melbourne, and because Tasmania is so established and run so well, it's just a maintenance thing to make sure we keep doing all the things, because we are the chased company. Everyone's trying to knock us off, steal our staff, and and stuff. Whereas I suppose here we are a chaser. We're trying to get to the top in
But
Victoria.
you've done quite well, like just in your time in Victoria. I mean, how many offices you got now in just Victoria?
Oh, look, it's close to 50. I think we've put on about 13 or so in my time, but
4 years, 2 years of which was COVID.
yeah. So look, mind you, we've probably got rid of 6 or 7 as well. Part of my job was not only to grow, but to increase the quality of and what we're talking about, the brand, so to get some consistency, and that all our offices are at a high level. And like most companies, you have a range of offices which are really good, and then some which are average. So part of my job was to increase the quality so that anyone who has an experience with Harcourts walks away and thinks that was great, they were fantastic. So that's
It's a
part of my
tough thing
job.
to do.
And what are the, Rex, what
Yeah,
are the
please.
qualities that you look for when you are potentially looking to put on a business owner in an area? Like, what are the Harcourts qualities that you are really sort of wanting to have in an individual to really sort of, I guess, take an office to the next level or grow an office?
Well, they have to be good people, first of all. Yes, they may not have all the knowledge, but if they're good people and we can sort of nurture them and mould them and train them, that's the most important thing. So they don't have to be if they're a rebrand, they don't have to be the biggest office, or if they're starting from scratch, they don't have to have experience. We just need to have good people who are willing to learn and listen and take on ideas. You know, when brands, I suppose the perception of a brand in a service industry is the people. You know, so you must have good people as the starting point of any growth. So they've got to be quality people. And sometimes you can have very successful salespeople who aren't
Great
good people.
business owners.
And,
They're
not good business owners because they're two different skill sets.
Absolutely.
And being a successful salesperson is quite a selfish sort of role, whereas being a successful business owner, you've got to be selfless. And so you need to find someone who is very successful but has more selfless qualities. And sometimes it's a matter of finding a successful salesperson and maybe there's another person that they form a partnership with, and that partner brings all the other skills which maybe the salesperson doesn't have.
Yep.
So you certainly need the right people, and you know that's the starting point.
As a CEO of a franchise, like you hear a franchise wanting to grow, and for you to say you want quality, so you basically got 6 officers to leave there. I mean, how is that possible? How do you go about getting someone to leave if it's not performing?
Sometimes it's just a matter of you have to wait for the franchise to expire. Sometimes it's actually having a conversation that unless you're willing to take on all the things that a franchise offers, why be part of a franchise? You know, you pay a reasonable amount of money for all the things that franchise offers in terms of systems and technology and support and training. And if you don't take it up, you'd be better off not with us.
What are the different qualities in the successful Harcourts business owners in comparison to the business owners that potentially haven't been able to grow their brand? What do you think the qualities are?
Well, first of all, I think the people who run the business need to be people that people want to follow. You know, because there's a lot of successful people, but you wouldn't want to follow them. So you need to have someone running a business which makes people want to join and follow. They also need to be open to ideas and learning and looking at new things. I mean, there's so much technology is happening and changing all the time, so they need to be open to how could they use that to enhance their business. You know, they need to have a certain drive and ambition, and not everybody has that. And it's not like we're looking for everyone who wants to have this amazing large office, but we certainly want people to create great offices. They may only be small, but we want them to create great quality offices that offer really good service, and so that's important.
Absolutely. And sorry, you go right.
Yeah. And we've seen what you do for your offices is you have these leadership days. So
I think you're coming to one.
I'm coming to one. Thank you for the invitation. But tell us about.
Chanell didn't get an invite.
No,
No.
hence my clearing of my throat.
It's leadership.
year.
It's good people. But it helps your franchisees, helps your offices. So tell us about your leadership days. How did it go?
Oh, look, the success of the business, a lot of it comes around the quality of the leadership. And I talk about the people leading. They need to be people that people want to follow. So I suspect, like, quite often when salespeople in lots of businesses, they go from that level of being a salesperson to a business owner, they stop training and learning. And so for us, they may have all the sales skills, but it's a totally different set of skills. So we are constantly trying to help our business owners understand how to manage people. Like, managing people is the hardest part of the business. It's a lot harder than selling houses. So understand how to manage people. We need them to understand to manage finances. A lot of salespeople are great. They have a gift of the gab and they can do all these things, but they're hopeless with money. So we need to educate them on how to run a professional, financially viable business. So that means you've got to give them guidance. So
it's a great initiative.
Yeah. So we do lots of things. I mean, some of it's about the things that the finance or the leadership, and some of it's just understanding how to develop a great culture. And culture in terms of what why people join or stay. It's leadership and it's culture. If you get those two things
Even
right.
Speaking on culture, Tony, I spent a period of time working internal with the Harcourts group, and something I really noticed that separates Harcourts from other offices is how strong the culture is. You know, you have your quarterly awards nights, so you've got your internal awards nights, and people feel leaving really empowered. And the individual offices, there's a real sense of, I guess, community, and I think your guiding qualities at Harcourts is what people first.
Doing the right thing.
Doing the right thing, and you can really tell that people abide by the guiding principles of what the Harcourts group stand for. So do you have a sort of culture or a strategy in place for the culture, and what do you look for when meeting with potential Harcourts business owners in terms of a cultural fit for the organisation?
Yeah, look, I mean, the values of doing the right thing, people first, being courageous, and fun and laughter, they're our 4 values. So they're sort of the core of what we do, and you know, we are looking for people that sort of fit in with those values. So we certainly,
How do you qualify that?
You don't always get it right.
You don't always get it right. It's difficult.
But they continue to train them as well. It's not just finding them, they nurture them.
You know, but the hardest part is, right, and I'm sure Tony can agree, when you're recruiting anybody, you see the best part of them.
Yes.
You do reference checks, you do every check under the sun. It's not until they're in the role
that
you really see what their true colours are. That can be really frustrating. And I can imagine when recruiting for potential business owners, you put that person on.
Yeah.
And that is the one office can destroy the entire reputation of a brand. So you've got to be so careful.
You do, and you know, we are careful and we do all the checks, but I'm first to admit, we don't get it right 100% of the time. No one does.
No one does.
Because as you say, you see the best of people in interviews and you go through the process. You know, I don't find you ever see the other side of people until from a normal recruitment till they go past probation.
Correct.
So if there's any issues in the probation period, you know there's going to be issues after probation. So they've got to be absolutely perfect, you know. And so you need to find, but it's so hard, and you do all the checks, and sometimes you realise you've got it wrong. And
but you have those hard conversations by the sounds of it. If someone's not performing, you'll exit them at some stage.
Well, it's not good, you know. To be a successful brand, you need consistency. And so for us to be consistent, I mean, everyone's perception of the brand is based on their experiences and feelings about the brand. And Chanell, you might have an experience with a Harcourts brand and you think they're great because you had a great experience, and Rex, you might come across a different Harcourts office and they're disastrous, you know, so you think Harcourts is terrible. So for us, it's really important to get consistency. So if we have people in our brand that are letting us down, you know, for our point of view, it's best that if we can part company, we part company. And it's always about the long-term goal, not the short-term thing. You know, we think short-term, if we keep them on, they're very successful, they bring in lots of money, it's all good, but long-term, they damage the brand. So for us, it's about, if we make a mistake, so how do we rectify that? Can we train them and guide them, or are they beyond help? And if they're beyond help, then we've got to see how can we part company.
And you've got the courage to do so.
Well, I mean, I suppose the role of a CEO is you have to have difficult conversations all the time. And, you know, I read somewhere, you know, that the more difficult conversations you have, the more successful you become. And I think there's some truth in that. So,
can we just go to branding?
Yes.
You've gone in Tasmania from 0 offices, and as a CEO, you've grown to 30 offices, and 1 in every 3 or 4 sales in the whole of Tasmania is a Harcourts office. You've gone Victoria, you've got 50 offices in Victoria. Now, how have you grown a brand so successfully?
It's just hard work. It's being choosy who you choose to do business with. It's giving, we have the best trained people. So we give them the absolute best training. And more often than not, they take it on. You know, sometimes they don't, but we make sure they have the absolute best training. So we're choosy, we give the best training, we work on leadership because it all stems from the top to make sure our leaders are constantly developed. But a lot of it's hard work, you know, like growing to that size, there were a lot of knockbacks where, especially in the early days, well who's this brand, Harcourts, in New Zealand? Why would we want to form a joint partnership with a New Zealand brand? We're in Australia, you know, like, so there was a little bit of resentment to this is a New Zealand brand. And I think brands are bigger than states and countries now. Brands are international, and that's where Harcourts is an international brand. But you know, this is quite a few years ago. So, but it's a slow, hard grind, and I think it's once you secure a few quality people, then other quality people think, well, that person would not have joined unless there were really strong reasons because they are smart people, maybe we should look at it. So I think early on we had a few successes where we got a few really good quality people, and that was what helped draw other people to at least have a conversation with us.
Absolutely. I mean, brand is everything, and I think as well, Tony, you led by example, particularly in Tasmania. If you lead by example, others will certainly follow.
Yeah, and I think brand is everything. You think of a brand for the company, it's like a person's reputation.
Correct. Just like the name Chanel. A brand within itself.
That's right.
What do you think some of the biggest struggles business owners are facing right now, Tony? Particularly within, not just the Harcourts network, but as a business owner right now, we've obviously got cost of living crisis. We've seen salaries escalate to points where, rent rolls can't even be profitable because of the salaries we're offering property managers. You're seeing a really volatile housing market. There's so many elements that are coming into play within the real estate market right now. So some golden advice for other business owners that are potentially watching, or potentially independents that might be sort of wanting to switch over to the Harcourts brand. What advice do you have for business owners in this current climate, this market, and what could potentially draw a business owner to join the Harcourts group?
There was a lot there.
There was a lot there. I
can't even remember the first bit.
No, I thought we were talking about brand.
I see what I mean when I say go on tangents. I just go.
So where do we start? So the challenges. So there's lots of challenges, but you know what? In real estate, there's always lots of challenges. There's always something going on. There's always interest rates going up, or something happening with the workplace, or a pandemic. There's always things, and I think real estate agents become very resilient people. And I think that is what's helped them over the last period of time. But I would say that my biggest advice, or several bits of advice, I think the officers that have strong leadership are the ones that are going to stand out now. And strong leadership is probably getting leaders who are going to get their team back to the basics and to understand. I mean, they've had an easy run for 2 years where they, maybe as soon as you put a house on the market, everyone was selling, and even average agents did quite well. Well, now you're going to find the average agents are going to drop by the wayside. And the good agents, I'm finding the good agents are doing just as well, even better, because in today's market, people realise that it's not a matter of just choosing any agent, putting a sign up and it'll sell. They actually need someone with some skill sets now to negotiate the best possible price, because the buyers are drying up, the days of market is extending. So we need to make sure, and there's been people who have entered the industry in the last few years who know nothing about all these basics that I'm talking about. So we've got to make sure our people are even going back to the basics and trained even better. So it's a matter of going back to all that stuff.
I've seen a couple of your officers or clients of mine who just entered new offices and are doing so well.
Yeah.
And have never run an office before. They were sales agents, and the leadership and quality and support you've given them, I've seen them literally flourish.
Well, the hardest part is that first 6 or so months when you transition from being a salesperson to being a business owner. There's so much to learn and take on. So certainly from our perspective, Harcourts, that we try and do everything we can to make you successful, because if you're successful, then we are successful.
Win-win.
Yeah. So it's about, once again, it's that long-term game. Whatever we can do in the short term to help that office start and flourish will be rewarded somewhere down the track.
Absolutely. Well, what we want to do, Tony, we want to finish up with, again, my question was very long-winded. So the second part of it was, if you're an independent business owner right now, or potentially a business owner with a brand that you feel like you're not getting support in, what advice would you give them to potentially join the Harcourts franchise group?
Well, I would say just give me a call to start with.
Yeah, call me.
No, call me. Look, I mean, I suppose there's lots of officers, whether they're independent or with another brand, who are looking for answers at the moment. And if their brand gives them the answers, that's great. Stay where they are. But if it doesn't, well, I'd say honestly, give us a call and we could talk about what we have to offer. Because I think we offer a lot in terms of support and training and guidance. But certainly, whoever you go with, you need to be with a brand that helps you, because officers are going to need more and more help over the next few years.
I think if there's anything we've learned over the past 2 years, you never know what's around the corner.
No,
Never know what's
It's
around the
extremely
corner.
volatile. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
your time
Tony.
with us today, Tony. We've learned a lot, and we really appreciate you coming out and being a guest on Real Estate Renovators.
You're welcome.
Tony.
Until next time.
Bye.